Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Layoff Legends podcast, where we listen to layoff stories and relevant expertise with a focus on finding inspiration, guidance, and encouragement for the laid off professional community. I'm your host, Leo, a principal PM that was laid off from Microsoft last October. Imagine being laid off, but not just from your job, but from a country. That's what happened to today's guest, a global marketing leader at Salesforce who suddenly had to pack up from Europe and return to the US. But this isn't just a story about loss, it's about leverage and about learning. And so while she was building billion-dollar go-to-market strategies by day, she was also helping professionals find their voice and speak with confidence. In today's episode, we explore the power of connecting with your deeper strengths, not in the future, not sometime I'll do this one day, but right where you are, and how this path done right can really unlock new possibilities in your life and career. Rebecca, welcome to the Layoff Legends podcast.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
It's so great to have you. And I really enjoyed learning about you and our initial conversation. So thanks so much for the time. You're jet lagged too. So I really appreciate it. Well, let's jump into it. Would love to learn a little bit more about you, who you are, and what your journey's been so far.
Yeah, my name's Rebecca, and I grew up in California, but I was working in Europe my whole life. So I moved to Europe when I was 18, went to university in the UK, and then worked out of Scotland, London, Australia, and then Spain for the last 2 years. And the last 8 of those years have been at Salesforce working in their product marketing team, which I've absolutely loved. My time there is such an amazing place to work, and I learned and grew so much. And that's really where I built my passion for communication and public speaking, because I would do keynotes very regularly in my role at Salesforce.
It's very expansive too. And I love the combination of personal passion and skill set, but then you're also contributing to an organization, which is unique. And we'll dig a little bit more into that. Were you on a large team, or was it something small, super focused on particular marketing strategies?
So the last 2 years, I was on a large team. I worked on our global product marketing team. So there was around 30 of us on the Service Cloud team. Previous to that, I worked on our EMEA team, which was a much smaller team covering the whole EMEA, which is Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So I've done both, being a regional product marketer, really thinking about how do I scale and how do I tailor to a market and grow globally, and then shifting over to the kind of HQ team, but I was based out of Spain. And then you're really thinking about what does the strategy look like on a global level.
Are there any products that you worked on that our listeners may be familiar with?
Yeah, Service Cloud, which is a massive product, Salesforce's biggest product, actually, and Experience Cloud as well. So 2 really big products for anyone that works in customer service or thinks about customer experience. Very likely they will have heard of Service Cloud and Experience Cloud.
Very, very impactful product for sure. So your journey, I think about it twofold. One was what you were doing from a marketing perspective, and another, you were helping others discover their voice. I want to dig into that a little bit more, how you discovered that path before your layoff, before any of that. You juggled something unique. You were doing your job, but then you were also serving the internal community at Salesforce by helping them build communication skills. Walk us through that.
So I remember when I interviewed at Salesforce, one of the sales leaders asked me, how would you feel if you had to present to 500 people on stage? And I thought, like, I would love to do that. That sounds so exciting for me. So that was sort of the setup of my role. And a big part of my role at Salesforce was presenting in our keynotes globally at all of our different World Tour and Service Summit events. And I always loved presenting and public speaking. I used to be very nervous. Now I'm much less nervous. I still get a little nervous before I stand on stage. That never goes away, by the way. But I was doing a lot of keynotes, and I really loved how I felt when I was doing those. I could really see my confidence building as I got better and better at communicating. And when I would have my personal development calls, sometimes I would be with my manager like, oh, I just really love presenting. And they're like, well, that's not a job. That's part of a job, but it's not a job. And I was like, yes, I know. But it just always stuck to me. There's something that I really am passionate and really love about it. And I think that building your communication skills and your confidence can really change the trajectory of your career and your life. But 2022, I started having ideas. Maybe I should create content on LinkedIn, share some of my skill set. I wanted to start to have more of a voice. But it took me a whole year before I actually did it. So I thought about it for a year, but I wasn't brave enough to do it. And then in 2023, in January, all the big tech layoffs happened. And pretty much every tech company was impacted, Salesforce as well. And I saw how quickly your role can just get taken away from you. And my role was so mixed in with how I defined myself as a person. I was a director of product marketing at Salesforce, and I was really, really proud of that. But I felt like who I was really wrapped up in that. And I realized that I don't want to be who I am up in something that I don't have full control over. Most people listening to this podcast have been impacted by layoffs, so they know what I'm talking about. But that can just get taken away from you at any moment. And I realized that if my role got taken away from me, I wouldn't really know who I was, which sounds silly, but so many of us define ourselves through our work. And so that's when I started to think like, I need to create something that no one can take away from me. So I started creating content on LinkedIn, and I just focused on talking about my passion, which was public speaking and communication, and how I do that. A lot of people had asked me for advice in the past. And so that's really where I've kind of found the idea, is thinking, what are people asking me for help with, and what am I passionate about? And then sharing that online. And so I created content. How do I prepare for a keynote, behind the scenes? How do I practice? And I created that type of content for about a year. So that was 2023. And then within that time, I also moved to Spain. And then in 2024, I started getting an itch to do something more. And I was looking more at like entrepreneurship and what does it look like to create your own thing. And I never really thought of myself doing that, because I always thought of myself as like corporate. And then I was like, no, I really want to try something. And I liked the idea of being able to kind of create whatever I want. So when you work at corporate, you might have an idea, but of course it gets shaped by many, many different voices, which is great, but also it's often not what you envisioned at the start. And when I have something that's mine, it can just be whatever I want it to be. And I can tailor my business however I want. And so then in October 2024, I launched the Confident Communication Coach, which is my coaching business, where I do coaching and public speaking training. And I'm very glad that I created it, because then in 2025, I was impacted by the layoffs. And I had something to fall back on, and something that I'd already built my confidence in. I had this great internal brand at Salesforce a few years ago, and I wanted to have that same great brand externally as well. And I'm so grateful that I spent the time to build that, because I had something to lean on when I was impacted.
What an interesting evolution. And if I think back at my marketing colleagues, they were always slammed. They were always super busy. They were supporting multiple products. And so you being able to create this time and do this while you were also working on actually having Salesforce be your first client in a way, it's super, super interesting. Could you walk us through your internal dialogue? And so you said it took a year before you really started to be public and be brave enough to go out there and tell your story. What was happening internally? Because many times it's not easy. You're just heads down on your role, you're doing your thing, but then suddenly you said, aha, there are more people that can, benefit from this. I want to tell my story externally. How did you walk through that process?
The first time I posted a piece of content on LinkedIn, we're all used to posting like, I got a promotion, I went to this event. That doesn't feel that hard to post. But when you're starting to post your own ideas, suddenly it becomes very scary, because you're making very public your thought pattern. And I was almost scared of two things. Like, what if people get a bad reaction? What if I don't get any reaction? Like, maybe that's worse than getting a bad reaction, Like, what if people just don't care? And so for me, it was really scary. The first time I posted something, I remember I closed my laptop, I put my phone away, I went to the gym, and I was like, I'm too scared to look. And then I looked at my phone and I was like, oh, like people are commenting and liking my stuff. And then I began to get motivated very quickly, because one thing that I learned from going through this journey of starting to create and share my ideas on LinkedIn is that people are attracted to people that create action, that are doing something. And so I started to notice when I would go into work, people that never spoke to me before would suddenly come up and talk to me. And they would ask me about what I was creating. So I was giving them something to come talk to me about. And I was showing that I was doing something different than everybody else. And most people are scared to post something. So if they see you do it, they're like, oh, she's doing something that I'm too scared to do. And so it was really, really interesting to see how quickly I learned that just by doing something, people are attracted to that. And then I built so much more connection, and my brand grew even more within Salesforce just from posting. And I had reach that I wouldn't have had before. And I discovered there's, internally you're posting all this stuff on Slack, and it's really easy for your message to get lost. But if you go to a different platform like LinkedIn, which is still a business platform, you're talking about business topics, but you're not mixed in with all the daily stuff that people are seeing when they're on Slack at work. So people take a little bit more notice, and you can kind of break through the noise.
So give us a little bit of your playbook here for folks within corporate who have this talent and have this hunger to help others, but haven't broken through that barrier of, I don't want to get my name out there, I'm a little bit embarrassed, or, oh my gosh, what would happen if this doesn't work? What would you say to them?
I would say, first, think about what you want to be known for. How do you want people to describe you? For me, I did some work with a coach a few years ago to kind of define my purpose, which is to inspire people to be the best version of themselves. So my goal with all the content and all the work that I do is to always help people feel inspired and feel like they want to take action. So I don't post any big contradictory clickbaity statements. That's not me. That's not my brand. My goal is after people read something or watch a video of mine, that they feel like they could do something that they want to do. So figure out what you want to be known for. And then the reality is, if you're working in corporate, you do have to think about your brand with that company as well. So you can't post anything crazy, So if you have a corporate job, you need to take that into account and always make sure that you're representing yourself in a way. So I never post anything that I wouldn't say in a cafe. I'm never going to give away a big secret of the company. If I wouldn't say it aloud in a cafe, I'm not going to say it online. And if I wouldn't say it to somebody's face, I'm not going to say it online. So creating some of those rules to safeguard yourself, and that also helps because some people are scared to create because they don't want to say something they shouldn't or get in trouble. And so create some of those rules for yourself. You're still a professional. You're still representing yourself. You still have your brand company logo next to your name. So you're still representing that brand as well. So take that into account. And I also wanted to create something that wasn't anything that was very, very specific about my job, because again, I wanted it to be mine. So some people use the tool to post a lot about the company that they're in, which is great, especially if you're in sales and you're trying to get more customers. But for me, I wanted it to be my brand. I wasn't trying to generate more sales for Salesforce. I was trying to generate a bigger network for myself. And so thinking about those things and then finding your passion. What is the thing that you talk about all the time? That's the thing that you should post about, because posting content can get tiring. And so if you're not really passionate about the subject, you're going to burn out super quickly. And I write for myself. So I think about what are things that I wish I knew or someone told me a few years ago. And sometimes I write things that I wish that I read that day. If I'm feeling uninspired or unmotivated, I'll write a post that I'm like, I wish that I saw this when I was online. And I'll just write it for myself, and then it resonates with people who are similar to me. And you don't need to resonate with everyone. You just need to resonate with your target market.
Love that process. I think one of the things I enjoyed you saying was I write for myself, and it comes from an inside out perspective versus an outside in, which many times can be very confusing. There's so many needs, there's so much noise. And so having a clear and authentic North Star is really powerful, especially in these uncharted waters that we're in right now. Take us into your layoff experience. This must have been very disruptive. You're in a completely different country. You have been there for such a long time. Walk us through what that was like.
So my biggest fear was getting laid off because I was sponsored, and I really, really love living in Madrid. I built just the most beautiful life. I would wake up every day and be like, I can't believe this is my life. So my biggest fear again was was getting impacted by layoffs. And of course that happened. But sometimes things are scarier before they happen than when they actually happen. And it was definitely a process. Like I knew that there would be impacts in Spain. So we were told that as a Spanish business, but I didn't know if I would be impacted or not. And then when I found out, of course, that was really tough. And that day, because it's sort of strange, it's like you have the call, it's 15 minutes, and then it's like, okay, close your laptop. You don't work anymore. So that's really strange. The longest vacation I'd ever taken in 12 years was 2 weeks when I did a trip to India. And so I remember when I got to week 3, I was like, oh, this is strange. Like I'm still not working. And when it first happened, the first day, I really didn't know what to do with myself. One of my neighbors, my friends who live in the building, he came and worked from my apartment because I was like, I don't know what to do with myself. So he just worked and I just tidied, like went and got a coffee and stuff. I mean, I cried a bunch first and then I did that, obviously. And then the next week was very set up calls with immigration lawyers, had a call with HR to really understand what my redundancy package looked like because it was all in Spanish for me. And I speak Spanish, but not at a working level. I worked in English. So I was like, I need to go through this package in English and really understand what it is and understanding how do things work in Spain. Again, it's a different country for me. So the second week was all action. And you really go through this journey, the kind of stages of grief. And there was some points where I realize now was the denial phase that I didn't realize at the time. Sometimes denial doesn't look like what you think it does. So it was I'm definitely going to stay in Spain. And I've decided that. That's actually a bit of the denial stage. And then one of the hardest things is people reach out at first and everyone's like, let me know how I can help. You don't really have an answer for that yet. At least for me specifically, I didn't because I had so many other things to think about as well. And then by the time you kind of hit your lowest is when people have sort of moved on that you've been impacted, So that's really when you need people to reach out and that's when people stop reaching out. So then I went through a period where I was having a lot of anxiety attacks. And for me, it was less about losing the role, but more about how much my life will change because I loved my life so much and I knew that it would be different. I didn't know what it would look like, but I knew that it would be different. And so for me, that's what was hitting me really hard. I think other people can go through that same journey if their identity is really tied up in their role. It's who am I? What's going to happen next? So all of that anxiety. And that was really, really rough. And then I did a holiday. I took 3 weeks and traveled, which I think is a great thing for everyone to do to kind of separate. So I went to Japan for a wedding and then I went to Korea and Hong Kong and just took myself out of that space a little bit. So if you are able to do that, I would definitely recommend that, just a change of scenery and something to kind of keep you distracted because your brain is actually processing in the background. And then when I came back from my trip, it was kind of a refresh of okay, what does life actually look like? What are my options? What can I do? Where will I live? And so starting to look at things with fresher eyes and then starting to think, then it gets a little exciting because you're oh, what will life look like? What if it's like this? You start to think about new options for yourself that you haven't thought of before. And I describe myself as an adventure seeker. I love doing new things. And so for me, that became a very exciting time. And that's the time that I'm still in right now, which is imagining the what ifs and trying new things and having very interesting conversations with people. And I didn't post about being impacted until June. I was on garden leave until the end of until the end of April. So I was on garden leave until the end of April. And then all of May, I was I don't feel ready yet to really announce it to the world. And then in June, I did a post on LinkedIn, which went viral. And I think that's how we came into contact. But it wasn't a sad story. It was just my journey and what I'm thinking about next. And that was really great because a lot of people reached out to me, both people who said you described my journey so well. And a lot of other people who had been impacted by layoffs at Salesforce and at other companies that I didn't know had been impacted. And then I started having all these discussions and we were brainstorming what are we doing next? And some people are doing fractional CMO work and I'm doing some marketing consultancy as well now. And And I was talking about my coaching business, and some other people are doing some coaching. They're like, how do we use all this experience in a way that's right for us? And those are the conversations that got me really motivated. So once you start having those conversations with other people that were impacted, like the way that you view your journey changes, and then you feel like you're in this like cohort of people who are about to do something really new. And I'm so excited now to see everyone that I spoke to, like, what does their life look like in a year? Because we're all in this stage of like building and creating, which is a really nice space to be in. It feels really good to be in a space like that. So it was definitely a roller coaster of like, it was hard, and then it got really hard, which I didn't even expect. I thought the hard bit was as bad as it would get. And then I sort of came out of it, and you will come out of it. If it feels really hard right now, you will come out of it, but you can't skip it. Unfortunately, you have to move through that, which is just, yeah, it sucks, but that's just part of it.
What you've described is what we call, as a product manager at heart, the layoff user journey, where you really do start from from the fields, and you come to this place, you go through it all, and then you get to the point of legacy and where you're actually helping others through it. I love your journey in the sense that you described everything
Yeah.
from point to point. But I also enjoyed how you talked about how you made this transition from handling that unpredictability to eagerly looking forward to the unknown and anticipation of the unknown. How did you make that leap? Are you just generally a more optimistic person? Because I'm sure there are others that are going through this who haven't gotten there yet. There's still the fear, there's still the unpredictability, there's still the, oh my gosh, my identity has been wrapped up in my role. Now I have to go find a new identity or build one that I've just ignored for a long time, and really look at the future with anticipation and positivity and optimism.
I am generally an optimistic person. I went through all those struggles as well. And when I first was impacted, I actually got 2 interviews very quickly. And then I did those interviews and then went like partway through the process and then didn't progress. And that first rejection is so much harder than you think it's going to be. And so that's what kind of kicked off my downward spiral, because it was like, this is going to be as easy as I thought. And it's hard when everyone says like, oh, you came from Salesforce, so it's going to be so easy for you. And you're like, that's not true. There's tens of thousands of people who came from Salesforce who are also looking for jobs. We're all competing against each other, and Microsoft, every company. And so it's not as easy as people think it is. And so, yeah, I definitely went down before I went back up. But at some point, starting to think about, what do I really want to do? So I would notice sometimes I would look at roles and it would be things that I've done in the past that I'm not that interested in. And I was like, ugh, this feels like depressing. And then I would look at a role and I'd be like, oh, that's like what I wished I was doing. And then I would feel really excited because you start to imagine, like, what if I was doing that? And then I also started to like to build up my business more and think about, what do I want my business to look like? And I have some really exciting ideas of things that I can do if I'm in a country that speaks English instead of Spanish, because I'm a native English speaker. And so I'm like, oh, this actually opens up new possibilities for me that I didn't have previously, even though I had this life that I loved. So starting to understand, what are you gaining instead of what are you losing, and starting to shift that perspective to what could life be. And I think it's really great to dream about that, to think, what could life be? What do I want it to be? I have this power now to move in that direction. Because the thing I was most scared about, losing my job or quitting my job, what happened to me? So everything else, like, it's not as scary as that. And you get better at being rejected as you do job applications. And I was like joking with someone now where I was like, yeah, like, even if it's a stretch role that I think I don't check most of those boxes, but I'm really interested in it, like, why not just apply? And if you get rejected, it's like, fine, I get better at being rejected. And if you're not scared of getting rejected anymore, then like life becomes very easy, because you can put yourself in any situation. You can go talk to anyone you want because you're like, I've been rejected before. I know I lived. It's not that big a deal. So that's the thing that most of us are scared of, is that rejection. And once you start taking action, oftentimes you don't get rejected, but when you do, it's not so hard, because you're like, well, then the next thing will come. It's that the action is really important. If you just sit and think, it's very easy to spiral in a negative direction. But once you start envisioning something positive and taking action, even if it's just looking at new roles and being like, oh, what if I was doing that role? What if I lived in that place? What if I worked at that company? Like that's what brings you out of it.
I love the focus on action. There's a quote that says, you can't feel your way into acting. You have to act your way into feeling. And
Yes.
so it's something about this. You've just got to do it, whether you feel like it or not. And I really enjoyed what you talked about overcoming that sense of rejection. It's something we kind of all fear. Acceptance
Yeah.
is something that is so important to us. And so being able to not have that matter as much, you just put yourself out there.
Yeah. Get good at being rejected
Yeah.
and get good at people saying no to you because someone will say yes
Yes.
eventually.
Yes.
If you don't put yourself out, the worst thing you can do for yourself is not put yourself out there because you're going to be the same place you are, not having the thing that you want.
Yes.
As
Yes.
long as you're moving towards something, like applying for a job, reaching out to someone for a coffee, or going to a networking event, these are all steps towards the things that you want, even if they're scary. And I do this a lot when I coach people at confidence, and I'm like, you don't become confident and then go speak on stage. You speak on stage multiple times, and then you become confident at it. So the only way to build confidence is to do something. The only way to get stronger is to lift weights. We don't get stronger sitting in our bed thinking about how we wish we were really strong. You have to go lift the weight. And it's the same thing with confidence, with looking for jobs, with changing your life, is you have to take those steps. And it's scary. And just be like, yeah, it's scary, but I'm just going to do it anyway.
I'm a huge fan of the power of consistency and small
Yeah.
steps. And I talk about this with my mentees and a lot with our audience around how do you break it down to the smallest step possible where it's almost impossible not to do it. And then you're like, okay, put on your shoes. That's it. And we're not going to lift up weights today. We're not leaving the house. We're just putting on our shoes. We're just putting on the workout clothes. And at some point, you move up and up and up and being gentle with yourself to the point where you're moving towards your goals and then you overcome a few things and then you keep on going. And it's so applicable to roles, networking. For some folks, going to a public event strikes terror.
Yeah.
And then, of course, speaking on stage, which is what you do, like, my goodness, that's even further. I think that's one of the top 5 fears people have in
Yeah.
life, documented research. And so that's really powerful. Are there any skills or superpowers that you have discovered about yourself throughout this entire process that you never knew were there?
I think my ability to lead and inspire, I started to learn like that's me. That wasn't me at Salesforce. That's actually just who I am. As I started having these networking calls and taking on more clients because I had the space to, now that I wasn't working full time at Salesforce, starting to see that I'm having this impact on people and I'm inspiring them and I'm helping people like move in a certain way and leading them. Like that's actually my personality. It's not, I didn't have that skill because someone said you're a director, so now you're a leader. I was a leader and I happened to have that title. And so that's something that I really learned about myself, which is great because then it doesn't matter what job I have. There's also this worry, at least for me, it's like, oh, I was at Salesforce for so long. What if that's all I know how to do? I'm not good at another company. And then I take a step back and I'm like, no, look at what have I done in the last few months? Like, I've grown my business so much. I've had so many interesting networking calls. I've gone to so many networking events. I've met so many people. That was all me. And I, like, when you're talking about the small steps, like for me, I was struggling for a while because every time I wasn't focusing on like applying for jobs and stuff, I felt guilty because I felt like I should always be doing this. But at the same time, I was like, I'm on garden leave and I want to like enjoy this gift of time that I've been given. So I was always feeling this like conflict internally. And I've always worked and I don't like not working. And so even when I was not doing my Salesforce role, I'm still doing my side business, and which is now my business. I need to stop calling it my side business. So I'm like, no, this is my business. I'm a founder. And I downloaded this habit app and I assigned myself actions like you would assign someone who works in sales so many actions per day. I thought like these are the things that I want to make sure I do in a week. And once I've done those things, like the rest of the time is just like go out, enjoy yourself, have fun. So I said like every week I want to do 8 job application actions. So that's either finding a role, applying for a role, prepping for an interview, doing an interview. And then I said I want to create 4 pieces of content for my business to help promoting it. Then I had like, I want to go to the gym 5 times a week because I also want to like, that helps with mental clarity and strength. So I set up kind of these actions for myself and I made them a week. So it's on Monday. I don't want to do any of those things. That's fine. I just have to do them Tuesday through Sunday. And picking the number that felt right for me, that really helped because then it's at the end of the week, I can see I'm progressing on all my goals, but I still enjoyed the time that I had. And so that once I started doing that, that also helped me become more in that positive mindset because I felt like I was moving towards things again because I was taking some steps every week towards the things that I wanted.
That's really applicable. I'll grab that link to the Habit app. Being able to incorporate these things into your day or week, just and make it natural. You're not like, oh,
Yeah.
I've got to go do this thing. It's just a part of who you are, and over time, it becomes easier to do. So yes, would love to grab that link.
Yeah, I'll share it with you. It's
Totally.
free as well, so,
Oh no, that's
if
awesome.
you
No,
don't
that's
have a
awesome.
job, then you want things that are free, so
Take advantage of everything.
yes.
As we wrap this up, Rebecca, what are you doing right now? We like to say, what are you doing on your piece of the planet right now?
That's a great question. So I'm growing my business, my Confident Communication Coach business. I'm taking on some new clients and I'm starting to do some corporate training as well, which was one of my goals. So I'm really excited to begin doing that and be getting paid for it because I used to do it internally at Salesforce. But of course, when you work at the company, you just do it out of the goodness of your heart. So I'm taking on some corporate clients. I'm also starting to do some fractional VP of marketing work. So starting to do some marketing consulting as well. And then I'm looking for what is that next role that I want. I think what's really nice about having these other things, about doing some of the fractional marketing work and having my coaching business, is it gives me the space to really find the next right role. So I don't have to just apply for any job. I can actually think like what's really right for me, what takes me in the direction that I want to go, have a job that I'm very passionate about. And I'm networking like crazy, just having coffees with people, having calls with people. I really love doing that. I'm very, very extroverted. So like every week I speak to new people and it's amazing. Your world can be as big as you make it. And you just have to have that conversation, to have that call. And people are so open to connect. Most people want to connect. And so that was a good learning for me. People do want to talk to you. And so you just have to reach out. And some people might ignore you, but most of them won't. Most of them will be like, oh yeah, I'll find even 15 minutes. And then people reach out to me as well. And I always find time for them. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. And traveling as well, because I love traveling and I would never give that up.
I love that quote. Your world is as big as you make it. That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Rapid fire questions. Best career advice you've received?
The best career advice I received was actually from my first manager when I first started at, when I was working in an agency. And he told me that it's not enough to do good work. You have to be seen to be doing good work. And that really resonated with me when I moved to Salesforce and discovered everyone around me is an A-star player and everyone is doing great work. So how do you stand out? You have to make sure that people can see what you're doing.
Go-to piece of advice for someone on day one of their layoff?
Spend time with people that you love. Go get a coffee. Go to a dance class. Do something fun. Don't sit around at home. Don't be alone.
One tool or resource you wish you would have known about sooner?
That's a good question. I have 2. I'm going to give you 2. The Habits app, I think it's called Habits. I really, really love that app. And a tool I knew about, but I didn't leverage as much is ChatGPT. So I was using it, but now I use it every day. I use it for job applications. I use it for building my business. And I also built a nutrition app with ChatGPT as well. So now I use it as a nutritionist. That's like help me keep like healthy on track and have fun, just like playing around with it. And AI became more exciting for me when I started using it for my own use cases.
Rebecca, this has been fantastic. Now, where can people find you? Where can people learn more about your work? And if they want to reach out to you for help with communications consulting and things like that, how can they reach out?
Yeah, they can go to my website, which is theconfidentcommunicationcoach.com, or just search for me on LinkedIn, send me a message on LinkedIn, and there every day. So either of those places LinkedIn or on my website.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the time. Folks, this has been an incredible conversation. I really enjoyed talking with Rebecca, not just during this interview, but also before too. Super approachable. Again, these things are so practical. So thank you for spending your very valuable time with us today. If you enjoyed this conversation, please like and rate to help us get more exposure. And if you have comments or questions, please leave them below and we'll reach out to Rebecca. We'll tag her and we'll have her answer the questions as need be. You will have links on the screen to our stories playlist. And if you'd like to meet other professionals and discover resources as you navigate your own layoff journey, consider joining our private and free school community. The links will be in the description. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.